Yeah, so my presentation tonight is titled Climate Change and Wildfire and Adaptation Without Getting Burned. So Lori made a really strong case for the ecological benefits of fires, and she also made a really strong case for allowing more fire on the landscape. And those are all really good things to have. However, we have to do this in a way that we don't threaten our communities or the values that we're trying to protect. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And actually, there's a nice picture there from Kamloops. There was a fire a couple of years ago, right up on the hill above Kamloops. So we all saw the headlines this summer. Numerous fires. The Rock Creek fire, of course, was a very big fire, devastating for a lot of the residents in the area. So when these fires get into communities, they can cause a lot of problems. Actually, the Duhamel fire in West Kootenay, or in the East Kootenay, West Kootenays, I guess. Lori was showing the show from that as well. Then we also had, it wasn't just BC that was having problems with fires this summer. It was also extending right through into all of Western Canada. So Saskatchewan as well had tremendous fires, a lot of area burned. And finally, we also had fires where we generally don't get fires. This is in Port Hardy, coastal rainforest, probably one of the wettest places in BC. And we had some major fires there. And also, we had some major smoke impacts right around the province. So, people in downtown Vancouver were getting the smoke from a lot of these fires where we don't normally get fires in southern BC. So we're concerned that something is changing, and that something is climate change. And I'm not going to say that this summer was climate change, but I'm going to say that this summer could be what climate change could be bringing us on a regular basis in the future. What we're expecting with climate change, particularly in relation to fire, are warmer temperatures and more extreme events, more extreme fires. Frequency, size, and intensity of forest fires are expected to increase, and we're going to have longer fire seasons and more extreme fire days. So in 2009, the fire season went right through into November. This year, the fire season started in May and June. It really took off early. So we're going to see those fire seasons extend. And I was talking with some fire control specialists from California. They said they don't have a non-fire season anymore. Their fire season is 365 days a year. They're chasing fires all year long. So if we look at the Ministry of Environment prediction for fires in Western Canada this summer, it certainly came true. And this, you can see the darker red is the higher prediction of higher fire severity, and we certainly saw that. And once again, that we can expect more fires and more seasons like this with climate change. Similarly, if you looked at the actual fire danger in July, you can see that BC is right in the bullseye there. That lots of red on the landscape there, and really, we had fires occurring in those areas. Once again, if you look at the coastal area, Vancouver Island, right in the red. So really a high fire danger, quite unusual for these areas. So as Lori described, with climate change, we're going to see our forests change. They're going to be weakened by climate change, and they're going to be more susceptible to natural disturbances. Mountain pine beetle being a great example of a natural disturbance. So that kills the forest, and you can see that red forest there with the mountain pine beetle killed trees in it. And then those forests are more susceptible to fire, and fire is the natural disturbance, the agent of change that refreshes these forests. And while it's not a bad thing for some forests to burn, we certainly don't want to damage our timber values and have communities lose jobs, and we don't want to have our communities actually burned by the forest fires as well. If we look at the 20-year history for fires in British Columbia, we can see that there is a trend of increasing fires. So you can see those burned area bars are going quite high, and that green line that goes right across, horizontal, right across through the graph, actually represents the 20-year average. So in the last 7-8 years, we've had 5-6 fire seasons that have not only doubled, but they've also almost tripled the average area burned. So things are changing. We're getting more fires. They're more difficult to control. So what we have are converging challenges. We're having more extreme wildfire behavior, and we have more values to protect. So that picture up on the upper left there, that's the Doki Wind Farm, a huge installation in northern BC. But you can see it's built right into the forest, right on top of a hill, right in the windiest part of the province. So if a fire starts near that area, and actually there were several fires up there last year, Very difficult to protect those values. But we all want clean energy, so it's great to have these wind farms there. The trick is, how do we protect them when fires occur? And another picture of a community threatened by fire as well. That was from 2009. So how do we deal with these two more values to protect and the climate change? Well, we've come up with a climate change adaptation action plan for wildfire management in British Columbia, and I'm going to describe a few of the pieces for you. It's really simple. We're looking, our first goal is to have wildfire adapted communities, and that affects private and community lands. Then we want to have wildfire resilient ecosystems, and that's, Laurie was talking about that. And that would fit on the Crown lands, those areas outside of communities. And of course, we want to have world-class wildfire prevention, response, and suppression. Now, the key to making this work is that it's a shared responsibility. So everyone has a role to play, right from the person in their own backyard to address those hazardous fuels, to the larger Crown lands where we're putting these major infrastructure installations in. They have to be fire adapted. So this is sort of a conceptual diagram that shows that the key to climate change, the climate change adaptation action plan, is that fire management has to occur at the private land property, the wildland-urban interface scale, and the landscape beyond the interface. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those. So the first thing we do in the province is we look at the risk and threat modeling. BC is a huge province. We can't obviously do this everywhere, but we certainly want to look at those areas where there is a high wildfire threat and where we have values. And then we want to do something to protect those values. So this is a map of British Columbia where we've done some modeling to assess the wildfire threat. And you can see there's a fair amount of red up there. That's this extreme. But there's also a lot of the orange, and there's a little bit of green where you'd expect it on the coast and in northwestern BC. So the first goal is, how do we get to wildfire adapted communities? Well, we're looking at fire smart homes and properties. And if you look at that house on the left, it's too late. That house has to be fire smart. It has to be ready for that fire because that fire's literally in its backyard. And so if that house isn't fire adapted, the house is going to burn. So how do you make a fire adapted house? Well, you remove all those flammable debris close to the house. You use fire resistant building material, and you make sure that the house can withstand an ember storm from an advancing fire. So we've got a new Fire Smart program in BC. Actually, it's been going on for quite some time, but this year we just announced $500,000 in funding. That's for $10,000 for community to take part to become fire adapted communities. So they'll take part in the Fire Smart program, and at the end of the year that they're going to be conducting this, they'll be having meetings with community leaders, homeowners and residents, and then doing Fire Smart activities, and then they'll become a Fire Smart certified community. And the first Fire Smart certified community in BC was Logan Lake. And we need wildfire adapted communities, so we need interface fuel management. So here's an example of a fuel management plan for, I think that's Whistler, where we identified, or the consultants identified, areas that needed to be treated, where you needed to remove those hazardous fuels near a community to ensure that that community can survive a wildfire. What does it look like? Well, it's not what people think fuel management looks like. It's not a bladed fire guard, down to mineral earth with cat dozers and stuff like that. What it is, it's removing those dense crown forests and making them open and thinned out, and then high-limbing the trees and removing the extra fuel. So you can see there's an extra fuel pile there that's been all removed from the forest. And so it creates what we call a park-like structure. And it's very open, very good for fire suppression. Our fire suppression guys will tell you they wouldn't mind fighting a fire in that. Air tanker drops can penetrate through that forest. They can help contain that fire. You won't get an extreme fire in that situation because it won't go from crown to crown. Some other good fuel management examples, once again, exemplifying those park-like forests that we're trying to create. Not everywhere, but certainly around our communities to protect our communities. So the goal number 2 is wildfire resilient ecosystems. So we want to have more fire burn on the land. That's good, but once again, we want to make sure it doesn't come into somebody's backyard or downtown. So we're looking at landscape level fire management planning. So we want to look at strategically placed landscape level fuel breaks that will then give our crews a chance to control fires when they do come, but it'll also give us opportunities to have more fire on the landscape. We can use those areas to do controlled burns, prescribed burns, and all the good things that Laurie was talking about. That is the future of fire management in British Columbia. And I should just back up to this previous slide for fuel management. Just to let you know, $10 million was announced for the Strategic Wildfire Prevention Initiative today, so that communities can participate in fuel management around their communities. It's been ongoing since 2004, and this is the newest level of funding. There was $67 million before, now it'll be $77 million. So it's a great thing for the province. So there's other things we can do. Fire resistant land management. Here's a great example. You can see that this area was fully burned all the way around this green piece right in the middle. So what happened in that green piece? Obviously there's a forest there. Well, that forest was replanted, but before the forest was replanted, there was burning done on the forest, what's called broadcast burning, to remove those surface fuels. So you plant those green trees into the forest, and they actually shade out the fire. It's moisture environment within that planted area. So that's an example of how we can do fire-resistant land management. And as Laurie described, sometimes we have to use fire to not only beat fire, but also to make fire-resistant stands. And so here's an example where they're doing a prescribed burn. This area was treated with a mechanical fuel treatment, and now they're doing a prescribed burn to clean up the hazardous fuel as well as the grasses. This area will survive really nicely. It's now climate change adapted because there's less trees and it doesn't need as much water. And fire control will be a snap in that area. It won't be threatening to communities at all. So finally, what does a climate change adapted and fire resilient stand look like? Well, this is what it looks like. It's green forest, standing trees, that park-like structure, and a good area to recreate in, but also a good area to fight fires in, and it's going to be really climate change adapted. Finally, the world-class wildfire prevention, response, and suppression is our goal number 3. And so you saw a great example of how we use aircraft to fight fires. We brought on a new scooper tanker group last year. That's been really successful. That's that plane in the top left. Of course, we have our air tankers, but at the end of the day, it comes down to our guys on the ground putting those fires out. So you can use all the air power you want. It comes down to the crews getting the water on those fires to put those fires out. So that's the China nose fire from last year. And I guess we're having questions and discussions at the end. Thanks.